on Airstream Addicts who was also asking, a gentleman named Brad, but for the Augie SBME subscribers. So I have a 2011 6.7 liter Cummins with a 68 RFE transmission, 6-speed. And now for accessories, I have a gauge cluster, a 3-gauge cluster on my 8-pillar. That's the 8 pillars, what's right in front of your left side front window. So I have a barometer, and that tells me what my exhaust gas turbine temperature is. Right now I'm running 800 degrees, and idle I run 400 degrees, and then when I'm towing, anywhere between 600 and 1,000 would be considered normal exhaust gas temperature. You really want to be careful with your diesel when you get up around 1,300 degrees. That's kind of the danger zone of your exhaust gas turbine temperatures, because you can damage your turbine vanes. So the nice thing about a barometer is it's really telling you what your boost temperature is, and you can manage if you're up in the mountains, heavy mountains on long steep grades, pulling a really heavy trailer. I'll probably never come close to it pulling an Airstream, but typical 21,000 pound fifth wheel in Slumgolian Pass or something, or Pikes Peak, you're going to be watching your exhaust gas temperature. Then I have a boost gauge. My boost runs anywhere from literally 0 to about 30 pounds of max boost. And with the boost gauge, you're basically looking at the performance of your boost pressure. See if you're under pressure or over pressure. You're just watching it. This particular whole set turbine doesn't have a wastegate like the early ones did. And then the other one I have is a fuel pressure gauge, and this is the fuel pressure gauge from the lift pump up to your fuel filter. So it really does a couple of different things. My normal fuel pressure is running about 15 pounds, and it lets you know if your fuel filter is clogged, or if your lift pump, which isn't an uncommon failure, if your lift pump up to your high pressure pump is starting to go bad. So that's my 3-gauge setup, and then I run a 4-inch stainless exhaust. I have a 1 1/8 Hellwig anti-roll bar, which is really nice. And I do need to also tell you that it's a 3,500 Ram dually. So I'm inherently pretty stable anyway from a body roll standpoint. But before we bought the Airstream, we were looking at Host campers and Northern Light and some other ones. And I had every intention of getting a pickup camper. We opted for an Airstream instead. So that's why I bought the Hellwig, but I'm really glad I got it. It's a great upgrade for... I have an anti-roll bar on the front because I got the snowplow package. You probably do too if you have it, but it did not come with a rear anti-sway bar. And it sways a little deceiving. It's really roll. It really, and now it tracks like it's on rails around the corners. It was doing pretty good, but in a dually you're pretty good, but it made a huge difference. I was really surprised. The other thing I have is Firestone Severe lift bags or airbags in the back. I got that. I have about a 5,000 pound payload, but when you look at the heavy host campers, you can exceed that. And I had purchased them. Now I use them really for ride quality. I believe I have 18-inch rims on my truck, Alcoas, but so I'm running E-rated tires. Now, if you have a 19.5-inch wheel, you're going to be in commercial tires, which will put you more in the H-rated class tire, and your ride quality is going to suffer. And although the tires will last a really long time because they're rolling much less, and they're commercial grade tires, your air pressures are going to be higher, and your sidewall stiffness are going to be higher. So I kind of like the E-rated tires from a ride quality perspective. And on the severe service airbags, you can I run about 35 pounds when I'm towing the trailer. You don't want to go lower than 12 in them. I run 35 when towing, and I think they dampen the ride a little bit, make it a little bit nicer. I get about 11.5 to 12.5 miles to the gallon when I'm towing, and I tow frequently at 68 miles an hour, and my RPMs are right at 1700. So I'm not really trying to break any speed records, but the diesel seems like it's in its sweet spot. And I have a 373 rear end, which is all you need for an Airstream. You don't need a 410 or higher than that on the rear end side. I read on Airstream Addicts a lot of people asking what to tow with. Many people seem to want to push the envelope for tow capacity of their vehicle. They want to try to make their vehicle work. I subscribe to a different train of thought because I've had a couple incidents with trailers, and I like overkilling with the tow vehicle. You definitely want to tow within the manufacturer's recommendations because that unit is designed as a system. So my truck's cooling system takes into consideration my engine's heat rejection. It takes into consideration how much oil capacity I have. It takes into consideration the transmission and the torque multiplication of the gears, and then the rear end is a further consideration. So and I used to work for Ford Super Duty, so I kind of know what I'm talking about. But from OEM side, they really design it as a system. So even though you might have bragging rights on your horsepower or something, torque and horsepower is just part of the story. It's a much more complex story than just what your torque and horsepower is. And I would argue if you're towing and you're at your max tow limit, you're pushing the envelope of safety and durability for your vehicle. So just keep that in mind depending on what your duty cycle is. And your duty cycle is kind of how you use your trailers. So if you're using your trailer like we are right now on flat ground in Florida, the duty cycle is not as harsh as if you were like in Colorado in the mountains. So you need to keep that in mind. So you might be fine with your F-150 on flat ground, low wind conditions with a near the peak of your tow rating. But if you're up in the mountains of Colorado, you might be really pushing your cooling system's capability to keep your engine cool and keep your oil in good condition, because thermal heat is the enemy of your lubricating fluids. So you need to keep that in mind. And also your transmission. And so that's kind of a high level summary of my engine and my truck. I'm a big fan of Cummins engines. They're a medium duty truck engine. They're a yacht engine. They are a genset engine. This platform that it's on, when they build the Cummins engines, they don't pay attention to where it's going. It's the same build quality no matter what. And like their gensets are made to run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in very adverse conditions. So inherently I like Cummins. I will say, I was on the design team for the Ford Super Duty new engine. I was also a program manager during the 6-liter and the 6.4 fiascos. The Ford engine is a mature engine now. The Duramax has proven itself. I worked for Navistar. We use the Duramax in our CV product with GM for the Class 4 and 5. They're all quality engines. They each have their quirks. I wouldn't hesitate to buy any of them. But as a matter of course, I love Cummins engines. I think they make great quality. The Ison transmission that's available with the Cummins, we looked at them back in the early 2000s with Ford, and they were struggling to get us to 600 foot-pounds of torque, and they required some redesign to get there. Now they're at, I think, around 1,000, but keep in mind that all the OEMs do what they call truncate. So you may think your vehicle delivers 1,000 foot-pounds of torque, which it does, but the OEMs control when you get to see that torque. So like gears first through third, let's say, directionally, you might never see 1,000 foot-pounds of torque because you're putting too much stress on the drivetrain. So you think you have 1,000 foot-pounds of torque, but in first gear, neither Ford, GM, or Dodge are ever going to give you 1,000 foot-pounds of torque. The transmissions just won't survive with all the torque multiplication that's taking place. I'm much more about durability. That's all I care about. I happen to have the high output Cummins, but I would have been happier to get the low output Cummins. I don't need a bunch of stress in my engine. So wrapping up, I know we're getting long, but I'll add some more information in the future, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks.